Ladies and gentlemen, CNN Justice Department insists Trump return all classified documents. New York Times. Justice Department is said to believe Trump has more documents. The Guardian, U.S. Justice Department said Trump didn't turn over all the documents. Do you want to know how I know and that everyone should know that they're all bluffing? It's yet another Trump worked with this country, Trump did this and that, and nothing. And just another failed attempt at tormenting the Orange Menace. If they know that he's already removed the classified data, number one. If they know that the classified data entailed top secret intelligence, which it did, number two. If they know that he might have Durham probe documents or incriminating documents, because he's probably, even said he might have Clinton's deleted emails, which is hilarious and possible, but hilarious nonetheless. If they know that he's removed classified data, some of which is top secret, they already have the evidence to indict. They don't need to investigate, okay? They don't indict because they can't convict. He's a former president. The Supreme Court has already backed his ability to declassify anything, even verbally. Anything that Trump tells any ambassador has declassified the moment that he speaks out the information, just like every other president. Presidents don't have to get security clearance or clearance to talk about certain topics when they're negotiating with if it's Reagan, Gorbachev, or if it's President Obama and Medvedev, they don't need that. Only Trump, current and former U.S. officials say that Trump gave classified data to anything he says is classified. He's a former president. They cannot convict him in a court of law because you had Bill Clinton full of classified and top secret intelligence in a drawer next to his underwear, a sock drawer. And the judge ruled that, well, you know what? And that's below in the description section. The judge ruled that, well, you know, it was on tape and it belonged to him. And because he's a former president writing a book, it was on tape. And so that's okay. I mean, you're talking about narcissists who are the epitome of, like, hypocrisy. These are hypocrites. Clinton transferred top secret special access program data onto servers. You can watch the shorts on this channel. President Obama, my latest short, and James Comey, my first short. It's now at 23,000 views. Exonerate Trump. Not my words, their words. Watch the shorts. Hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. And so, I'll have a live stream tonight at around 6 p.m. Pacific, so be here. But it's like, it's right there, ladies and gentlemen. It's not like I'm not making anything up. But they have, if he's hiding more Durham probe documents, let's say, if he's actually hiding more Durham probe documents, which is possibly the case, okay, we have a Durham trial coming up on Tuesday. I know that people aren't too interested, but like, check out the segment prior to this one. It was like, 8:30 p.m., 8:30 a.m. Pacific. It was up. I talk about Hunter and the indictments that he faces. And they might indict him just so they can have a pretext to indict Trump. They can't convict Trump in a court of law. They might indict or, set up a plea deal so that the impeachment proceedings maybe they'll try to circumvent, like they'll try to outmaneuver or preempt any GOP investigations into actual felonies by Joe, who worked alongside Hunter. Because Joe did, and it's within the emails and the 150 financial transactions that were suspicious. According to CBS News. I'm not making anything up. Everything I say is public record. And so the New York Post, those journalists deserve Pulitzer Prizes. Daily Mail, Federalist, all those journalists also deserve Pulitzer Prizes. And they're one of the only few publications that are actually looking into criminal behavior by Joe and Hunter and others. You can't force out a prosecutor after Hunter is making millions upon millions of dollars, in part by a corporation asking for influence on behalf of the company, on the company's behalf, which would be forcing out a prosecutor that was going to investigate that company. Can't do that, sorry. And so you have all of this information now. Like, Democrats don't have any, like, they're going after Herschel Walker, which is very interesting, in Georgia. But you have Joe Biden pumping 120 to 180 million barrels of strategic oil reserves into this economy, this country. Is he not a hypocrite? I thought that Democrats cared about the climate, and it's an emergency, but they're pumping hundreds of millions of barrels of strategic petroleum reserves that are meant for a calamity, a catastrophe. They're not meant to make up for flawed, failed policies. When mashed potato brains Joe went after the oil and gas industry and then blamed them after they sued him for oil prices going up. I mean, you can't make this up. So he comes into the Oval Office, ignores inflation, then the next year inflation's at 8 to 9%, oil prices hit a record, and it's everyone else's fault, not the Democratic party's. So is he not a hypocrite? The whole thing is like, you see, look at Herschel Walker, he's a hypocrite. It's like, well, wait a second. You couldn't find greater hypocrites than people within the Democratic Party. These people wanted a ministry of truth as they spread information that misinforms people all the time. Trump never worked with the Kremlin. Trump has the authority to declassify documents as a former president. He said that he declassified the documents. Democrats did much worse with servers. I mean, you couldn't even have a job at Microsoft or Apple or Best Buy and just install your own servers and siphon the company data onto those servers. They would fire you in 2 seconds. You couldn't even do that at McDonald's or any company, any corporation. So they're going after him. Oh, he's a hypocrite. It's like, well, you cheated Bernie Sanders. And like I said, I support Trump because I want a record low in poverty. We had a record low in poverty in 2019. Fact. Poverty is at like 15% now. So we have 8 to 9%. I was looking at one number down. Real wages are down 8%. The New York Post came out with that, down over 8%. Are you kidding me? Real wages were up under Trump. So Democrats claim to care about the poor. Are they not hypocrites? So like, it's just so interesting how you have Warnock in Georgia, who is a Democrat presiding over an economic collapse and a foreign policy catastrophe where we face possible nuclear global annihilation. And that's not even hyperbole. Yet Herschel Walker's the hypocrite because of a news story that comes out. Okay, but you're dealing with is hypocrites here. And so you vote Democrat in the midterms, whether it's Herschel Walker's opponent or any Republican, any competitor or opponent to a Republican. You are voting for an economic collapse. You've already seen what's taking place. And getting back to cheating Bernie Sanders, objectively, Bernie would have won in 2016. So I'm not gonna I'm gonna call it the way I see it and tell you, like, even though I'm voting for Trump 1,000,000 out of 1,000,000 times against any Democrat because he was a fantastic president in terms of the economy and foreign policy, the meltdown by media and intel agencies and all these, like, these are people trying to torment him because he was a very good president and he didn't worship these sacred cows, the alliance that is presiding over possible global annihilation. But anyway, at that moment in time, if they really cared about Roe v. Wade, they wouldn't have cheated Bernie Sanders, but they wanted their cake. They wanted to have their cake and eat it too. So they then blamed the Kremlin on informing us that Bernie was cheated. They had a primary that was not fair and neutral. Had they put all their weight into Bernie Sanders at that moment in time, and he's a tool of the Democratic Party. He would not have presided over a record low in poverty in 2019, and he would not have removed Americans from our longest-running counterinsurgency conflict ever. That Trump did with the Doha Agreement, with Biden completely botched those 13 Americans, those over 100 Afghans should be alive today. He completely botched that like he does everything. But getting to finally the point of the story, Democrats cheated Bernie, went with Clinton, and don't say, well, she won the primaries. Like, well, the whole thing was a setup anyway. They don't even have functioning primaries. You had votes. You had everything that they claim never happened during the primary. But it wasn't fair and neutral. Even Elizabeth Warren, Donna Brazile all admit that they cheated Bernie Sanders. And so at that point in time, Bernie Sanders would have won. Getting to my point. You might disagree, but it was lightning in a bottle. I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. It wasn't all the people who love Bernie now. It was me. My writing was shared hundreds of thousands of times. I was the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. Bernie Sanders would have won at that moment. They would have then picked 3 liberal justices. You wouldn't have had the Dobbs decision. But they cheated themselves. So, are they not hypocrites? Then they pontificate about democracy. So, if you're in Georgia and you have a choice between Herschel Walker and Warnock, just look at what's taking place in the economy. Look at what's taking place in foreign policy. Walker would be infinitely better. Anyone would, but especially Herschel Walker. And he's a legend as well. But anyway, hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. Watch the segment prior to this one at around 8:30 a.m. Pacific. Look out for segments on the H.A. Goodman's other channel, the Stock Market Crash channel, and I will have a live stream today at 6 p.m. Thanks, everybody. God bless.